You have already heard about some programming languages. Now it's time to start using two of them. First, we will start to create a simple app with a visually oriented block-based programming language with the name Acrobat. Second, we will show you how to implement this code in the text-based and object-oriented programming language Java. Integrated Development Environments, IDE in short, are application programs that facilitate the development of software. IDEs usually have the following components: a text editor, an integrated compiler or interpreter, a linker, a debugger that supports you in finding errors in the code, and other helpful tools that undertake frequently used tasks. Examples for IDEs are NetBeans, Visual Studio, CodeBlocks, Scratch, CPython, or Android Studio. To run Acrobat programs, we use the Pocketcode app. For writing and testing the Java program, we use a simple online compiler called rebel.it. This web application provides all the functionality we need to start programming. Acrobat is a free open-source non-profit project at the Institute of Software Technology at Graz University of Technology. The project has been initiated by university professor Wolfgang Slany in 2010. The multidisciplinary team develops free educational apps for teenagers and programming beginners. One of the apps is Pocketcode, which has been available at Google Play since 2014 and on the Apple Store since 2018. In April 2019, the app Luna and Cat was released. This is a special version of Pocketcode, and it is supposed to inspire especially young girls for coding. With feature projects created by girls for girls and many other features, this app is based on the findings of my dissertation. In this model, we show the development environment Pocketcode, but you can also use Luna and Cat. The Pocketcode app allows the creation of games, stories, animations, and many types of other apps directly on your smartphone or tablet. Furthermore, all sensor data of your phone, such as inclination, touch sensor, GPS or face detection, and actuators such as vibration, flash or sound can be used. Pocketcode is an easy way to learn coding in a more playful way. In short, perfect for everyone who wants to gain first programming experiences. There are many extensions, so it is also possible to control robots like the LEGO Mindstorm NXT and Evo 3, the Arduino, drones, or even programmable embroidery machines. For this model, please download one of the following apps: Pocketcode on Google Play or on iTunes, or Luna and Cat on Google Play.
According to the TIOBE index as of June 2019, Java is the most popular programming language. The Java programming language is a so-called high-level language. You want to learn more about Java? Then have a look at the displayed website. In this video and for the exercises in Module 5, we are using the online platform REPL.it to write and execute Java code. Just type REPL.it in the address bar of your browser and log in with an existing account or register directly on the site. This platform supports over 50 programming languages for different applications, and you can quickly write and test your short programs. Let's start right away with the first Java program. After registration, just click on New REPL and choose Programming Language Java. Give your project a name. Currently, the project consists of one file with the name main.java. It implements the main method, which is the starting point for every Java application.
First, we start in Pocketcode with a new project. We give our project a name. And we choose the orientation for our first app. We can choose between portrait or landscape mode. We will choose landscape. Voila! We have our first empty project. But look, it's not completely empty. It already has a background object. But what is an object? An object is a concept, an abstraction, a thing. Take any item next to you. Oh, I have a bottle of water. My bottle has an identity, a name. It has a state determined by the values of its attributes and variables. For example, it has a fixed position, it is in the middle of the table. It has a color and a size. It has a certain behavior. For example, it is determined how the object acts or reacts to other objects. This is done by so-called methods. For example, if I tilt the bottle to a certain degree, water will flow out. Let's add a new object to our project in Pocket Code. You have to tap on the plus icon at the bottom. We will choose an object from the media library. Take the bird graphic and rename it. Tweety is a suitable name.
To add a new object in Java, a class is needed. A class is a blueprint or a prototype of an object. A class defines the variables and the methods for all objects that are built according to the blueprint. But more on this later. The following code snippet is already provided in repo.it. Every Java application must contain a main method with a signature that looks like this. Public indicates that the main method can be called by any object. Static means that the main method can be called without creating an object of a class at first. And void indicates that the main method doesn't return any value. When the Java compiler executes an application, it starts by calling the main method of a class. The main method then calls all the other methods that are required to run the application. If you try to invoke the Java compiler on a class that does not have a main method, the compiler refuses to run your program and displays an error message. The given program displays the text "Hello World." To execute the program, just click on Run. Now we add a further class to create a blueprint for the bird object. Curly brackets indicate the beginning and the end of the class. Now it is possible to create multiple bird objects. Objects in Java are created by using the new operator. The following code is needed to create an object according to the blueprint of the class bird, which we will determine later. First, a reference type variable with the default value 0 is declared. Declaring a variable means that the variable is mentioned for the first time in the program. That tells the compiler, "Hello, I'm here and can be used." But by now, no object, no instance of the class has been created. For this, you need the new operator. MyTweety is now an object or an instance of the class bird. The two code lines can be written in a more compact way. All Java classes have constructors that are used to initialize a new object of that type. The constructor has the same name as the class. He has no return value, and the constructor is called during the instantiation. Here is an example code. It is important that the commands that come after a parenthesis are tab indented. This is the whole code.
A software object that is modeled after your real-world bird would have variables that indicate the bird's current state. You have already heard about attributes and variables in previous models. Now a short repetition and some additions. Variables have a unique name. They are used to store a certain value in a program, for example, a number, a word, or a text. And you can manipulate these values. Variables include values of a given type. Variables of a given type or data type. What is this? You know data can be stored in different forms. Remember the slider code example from Model 3. Here we use the variables countdown and highscore that stored numbers. In programming, it must be first clarified whether a whole number or a decimal number has to be stored. We need a variable of the data type integer for whole numbers, and we need the data type double or float for floating numbers. To store individual characters, for example the letter A, you need a variable of the data type char. Whole words or texts, as so-called character strings, can be stored in a variable of the data type string. There are also data types for logical values, true or false. The Boolean values 1 and 0. Additionally, there are more specialized data structures, such as fields and lists. which contain again values of a certain data type. The data type also determines which operations can be performed with a value. For example, arithmetic operations are only for numbers, and strings can be concatenated. On the one hand, we have programming languages with a strict type. This means the type of the variable must be defined from the beginning, as it is for Pocket code. On the other hand, there are languages where the type definition takes place at compile time. Here, the data type does not have to be defined in advance. This is true for the programming language Java. In Pocket code, our bird has variables right from the beginning. For example, its position and size. If you tap on the play icon in your project, you will see that the bird is in the middle of the screen. So on the position 0, 0, and the size is defined with 100%. Here we distinguish between local and global variables. Local means that the value of the variable can only be seen and changed by the object itself. If the variable is declared as a global variable, other objects can also access it. To create a variable, you need a block from the category data. But let's continue with our project. At the beginning, let's change the state or the existing variables of our bird by adding new blocks. If you tap on the plus icon, you can access different categories of blocks: event, control, motion, sound, looks, ban, and data. For our app, we go to the category event. You can activate additional categories, for example for drones, in the main menu. A block represents an action or a command for your object. Several blocks in a row form a sequence. For our first project, to determine the position and size of our bird, we need two blocks. First, from the movement category, the block place at. Second, from the look category, the block set size to. The values of the blocks can be changed by tapping on them. The values position X and position Y, as well as the size, are also variables, which are already predefined in Pocket code and can be changed easily with these blocks. You can also visually change the position. If you want to see the axes of your screen, you can show them at any time while the project is running. In the Stage menu by tapping on the back button and then tap on the option Axis On. If you want to make your object bigger, choose a value greater than 100%. If you want to make it smaller, choose a value smaller than 100%.
Variables that contain the state for a particular object, in our case the bird object, are formally known as instance variables or attributes. Because in the terminology of object-oriented programming, a particular object is called an instance. Since we do not have a visual representation of our bird object in the Java program, it does not make a lot of sense to use the attributes position and size in the simulation. Therefore, we use the following two variables: flaps per second and wing strength. First, we write the data type. Remember that Java is a programming language with strict type requirements. We use a variable of type integer, which should store the number of flaps per second, and another variable of type integer for the wing force. The values for flaps per second and wing force should be used to calculate the speed of the bird. To store the result, we need another variable of type float. Every command needs to have a semicolon at the end. These are the attributes of our object. Typically, the state of an object is hidden from the outside world. These attributes are declared as private and are only visible to the class to which they belong. This mechanism of hiding information, which allows only a controlled access to attributes, is called encapsulation. Public variables are visible to all classes. Protected variables are variables that are visible only to the class to which they belong and all subclasses.
In addition to its variables, which are describing the current state and characteristics of the bird, the behavior of the bird must be also defined. For example, a bird can fly or move. For this purpose, in programming, so-called methods are used, which implement a behavior, for example, a flying behavior. Methods of an object in Java are formally known as instance methods because they inspect or change the state of a particular bird instance. In Pocket Code, we can easily change the behavior of our object with the predefined blocks. First, we want our bird to move. Therefore, we take the block moveSteps from the category movement. Let's have a look at what happens by tapping on play. Nothing. The reason is that our mobile phone is very fast and therefore these 10 steps are executed so fast that they are not visible for us. If you enter a larger number of steps, for example 500, you will at least see that the bird is at a different position. This means the step has been taken. But if we now want a continuous movement of 10 consecutive steps, we can use a concept that we already know from the previous model: loops. In Pocket Code, under the category Control, we have several kinds of loops: wait until, repeat a number of times, repeat until, or repeat forever. We use the forever loop. Attention! The block moveSteps must be between the blocks forever and end of loop to be executed continuously. Test the game. To prevent your bird from leaving the screen, we need another building block, if an edge bounce. Test the game. Oh no, now the bird is upside down. To prevent this, we have to change the rotation style. Use the motion block, set rotation style left, right. Yay! Your object is moving. But unfortunately, it is still a little stiff. For an animation, your object needs a second look. We will add this under looks. Let's search for another bird graphic. To change between those two looks, we need the looks block next look. Test your game. Oh look, that's a bit fast. Remember, smartphones are very fast, so we have to tell the bird to wait a while before the look changes. For that, use the control block wait seconds with a time value of 0.2 seconds.
As we have already discussed, there are methods in Java which are assigned to an instance of a class. These are called instance methods. In Pocket Code, all objects have access to the same variables and methods except for the background object. There are different types of instance methods. For example, one for the construction and destruction of an object, or one method to change the internal state of an object. Let's continue with the construction method of our bird object. In the constructor of the bird object, we assign values to the created attributes. The word this refers to the instance variable. Furthermore, we define a method for calculating the speed of the bird. This method expects two integers as input values and returns a value of the data type float.
An object usually appears as a component of a larger program or application that contains many other objects. Software objects interact and communicate with each other by sending messages, which means that they are also calling methods of other objects. In Pocket Code, we use broadcast messages for the communication between two objects. The first question is, when should a message be sent? I would suggest when tapped. Event blocks contain head blocks, which are always at the top of the script. To send a message, we need broadcast and enter a new message. This message is only needed internally and should reflect the purpose. We create a new message, show sun. When a message is sent, a message must always be received as well. For this, we need a new object. Therefore, we go back to our object overview and add a new object with the plus icon. From the media library, we pick a sun graphic. The sun should not be visible at the beginning. For that purpose, use a hide block of the category looks. Now we want to receive the message in the sun object. We use the block when you receive and choose the message show sun. Test the game and you will see nothing happens. To show the sun again, you need to choose the block show from the category looks. Now the object sun should say something. Therefore, take the look block, say for 2 seconds. Test the program. Congratulations, you created your first app.
Sometimes the receiving object needs more information so that it knows exactly what to do. In our case, the number of flaps or the power of the bird. This information is passed along with the message in form of parameters. They are also called transfer parameters. This is what it takes. First, the object to which the message is addressed, your bird. And second, the name of the method to perform. The method is called setBirdSpeed. And third, any parameters needed by the method, like the amount of flaps. We call the method in the following way. And finally, we use the command system out println to display the result. In our case, the speed of the bird object. Now you can create instances of the class bird with different values. Again, we click on Run, and this is what we get as an output. We can now quickly create a new bird object and start the program again. The whole program can be found under the following link. As you can see from this example, it takes a lot more thinking and some basic knowledge to write a Java program from scratch. In comparison to Pocket Code, where we have created an animation, the Java program only outputs a text. With Pocket Code, it is quite easy to produce a nice visual output. It takes only a few code blocks, but you have to keep in mind that there is a Java code behind every code block of Pocket Code. And it requires a bit of practice to understand or even program more complex tasks. But that is part of all computer science studies, and in the next module there are more exercises that will help you to get more used to textual programming.
Congratulations! You finished your first 2 programs.